Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Coffee, where in today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at how the Rise of Skywalker ended up fulfilling the Chosen One prophecy. That's today here on Star Wars Coffee. Greetings, Exalted Ones. Greetings to all you Jedi, Padawans, and younglings out there. This is Star Wars Coffee, covering everything you need to know about the latest developments, news, and leaks in Star Wars, and as always, giving you my analysis. The entire Star Wars The Skywalker trilogy is now finished, with the sequel trilogy being the final three films in the big overarching three-act play, if you want to think about it that way. With that being the case, some fans are still wondering why in the world that there was even a sequel trilogy, as it seemed to neglect the basic premise of the original six films in the prophecy, the Chosen One prophecy. And what I found while thinking about this is I decided to look up and see what other people thought about this. And so I was thinking about how Rey ended up actually bringing balance to the Force, and in a way ended up fulfilling the prophecy. And while I was looking to see what others thought, I found somebody who did a really good breakdown of this. And to sum up the prophecy is essentially how I summed it up when I was thinking about it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through this, and whoever wrote this, the Reddit user is Yoda Seagulls. So essentially what I was thinking about and what I boiled it down to, and then this person was able to expand upon really nicely, was the following. The prophecy: a chosen one shall come, born of no father, which was Anakin, conceived by the Force, and through him and his descendants, Luke, Leia, and Ben Solo, will ultimately balance in the Force be restored. Ultimate balance is then provided by a new reformed Jedi Order founded by Rey. And so I'll explain this as we go. So we're going to take a deep dive into this. So if you're interested in the prophecy and trying to look at the sequel trilogy through a new light, seeing how it can actually fit into the prophecy and the overarching narrative of the first six films that George set out, we can take a look at it here. So Obi-Wan said the following: "With all due respect, Master, is he not the chosen one? Is he not the one to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force?" To which Mace Windu responded, "So the prophecy says," and which Yoda astutely points out, a prophecy that misread could have been. So let me start by saying that I am aware that this topic has been discussed countless amount of times, and that this is something that has actually been debated throughout the entire process of the sequel trilogy, from the end of Return of the Jedi to who actually fulfilled it, whether it was supposed to be Anakin or Luke. And now you have Anakin and Luke for the first six films, but now with the sequel trilogy, you also have Rey into the mix as well. Or you could, and I've even heard some arguments for Ben Solo. So my aim here is to explain the Jedi Prophecy in light of the latest divisive entry in the saga, The Rise of Skywalker, by piecing together some of the more recent canon entries published by Lucasfilm. So first things first, what does the Jedi Prophecy actually say? And this is pointed out really well in the 2019 canon novel Master and Apprentice, written by Claudia Gray, and reveals for the first time the full Chosen One prophecy, which, let's remember, this is the canon prophecy, okay? So it says, quote, "A chosen one shall come, born of no father, and through him will ultimate balance in the Force be restored." A chosen one shall come, born of no father. This undoubtedly refers to Anakin Skywalker. The prophecy was first mentioned in The Phantom Menace, where Shmi explicitly states, when asked about her son's male parent, that there was no father. Later, Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn concludes that midichlorians created Anakin in Shmi to bring balance back to the Force. If there was any further doubt, George Lucas himself said, quote, that Anakin is the chosen one, and even when Anakin turns into Darth Vader, he is still the chosen one. So, the prophecy is that Anakin will bring balance to the Force and destroy the Sith. He becomes Darth Vader. Darth Vader, in the end, goes full circle and does become the hero. Darth Vader does destroy the Sith, meaning himself and the Emperor. He does it because he is redeemed by a son, which brings unto us the second half of the prophecy. So the next portion, through him, the prophecy uses an interesting choice of words here, and could explain why, for a time, both Yoda and Obi-Wan believed that the prophecy was referring to either Luke, which you can see references to that in Rebels Season 3, Episode 20. A dying Maul asks, quote, "Tell me, is it the chosen one? To which Obi-Wan responds, he is. Or Leia, Obi-Wan says, quote, that boy is our lost hope. To which Yoda replies, no, there is another in The Empire Strikes Back, which I'm sure more of you are familiar with. So, George Lucas does say that he, and this is another quote, he does it because he is redeemed by his son. So even though at the time of the interview George had no plans for a sequel trilogy, he still saw Luke, Anakin's son, as an integral part to fulfilling the ancient prophecy. So how did the prophecy change after Episode 9 following the Emperor's return? And again, we're reading this from a great Reddit user who did a really well deep dive into this, Yoda Seagulls. Let me start by saying that Anakin did destroy the Sith and did bring balance to the Force, albeit temporarily, which I think everybody is in agreement with, right? Because that's the whole debate about the final 3 sequel trilogy films. The question was never, was the prophecy fulfilled? The question is, at this point, before the sequel trilogy came in, who was the chosen one? And now, the question becomes, why are we doing a sequel trilogy if the prophecy has already been fulfilled? So, Anakin did bring balance to the Force temporarily, and Luke in The Last Jedi confirms it by saying, quote, for many years there was balance, and then I saw Ben. At the start of The Rise of Skywalker, the decrepit clone of the Emperor was confirmed his death at the hands of Anakin Skywalker, saying, quote, I have died before. Towards the end of that movie, Anakin addressed Rey alongside the voices of Jedi past, asking her to, quote, bring back the balance, Rey, as I did, which you can clearly hear in that. So if you haven't heard that before, I have that full scene on the channel, so I suggest you go check that out. But this is clearly referring to Palpatine as the main source of imbalance, which he himself corrected when he killed him the first time in Return of the Jedi. So, in both cases, Anakin and Rey bring the balance temporarily, while the prophecy clearly referred to ultimate balance in the Force. So now we have this question of okay, so you can balance the Force temporarily, but now there's this final piece to the puzzle, ultimate balance in the Force. So who will achieve this ultimate balance in the Force? The Rise of Skywalker screenwriter Chris Terrio has explained, and his director J.J. Abrams thinking in an interview, quote, there are corners everywhere in the galaxy where the dark still exists, except that with the rise of Palpatine in the original trilogy. I think the way George would describe it is that the dark had become too powerful to the point where the light had almost disappeared. So in winning this victory against the First Order and the remnants of the Empire and the Sith loyalists, I think the balance is restored, because the dark had been growing much more powerful than the light. But Rey striking this blow, it doesn't mean that everything is happily ever after, but it means that at least for this moment in time, the dark has been held off as the last light has pushed back. So at last light has pushed back. So how can a single mortal individual achieve a state of perpetual balance? Lor San Tekka, you guys may be thinking, who is that? Well, he's the one in The Force Awakens who provided Poe a piece to the puzzle. So when The Force Awakens, in that opening scene where Finn ends up taking his helmet off in Stormtrooper in the village raid, Lor San Tekka is the one talking to Poe. So now we're going back to The Force Awakens. So he says he's satisfying an overlooked answer in the beginning minutes of that film, which is why most of you probably didn't remember. He says, quote, without the Jedi, there can be no balance in the Force. Without the Jedi, there can be no balance in the Force. That doesn't say you must get rid of the dark side to get the balance. He's just making the note of the fact that without the Jedi, there can be no balance in the Force. The Jedi are the ones who will ultimately keep the Force in balance, not the flawed Jedi of the prequel era, though, who ended up becoming political people and essentially politicians, which Obi-Wan makes very clear, essentially, that they are essentially just employees of Palpatine, who Obi-Wan referred to as a politician. At the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke redeemed his father and defeated the Emperor, but didn't really acknowledge or learn from their mistakes. And until decades later, he says, quote, if you strip away the myth and look at their deeds, the legacy of the Jedi is failure, hypocrisy, hubris. At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out. This is what Luke said in his second lesson to Rey in The Last Jedi. The Jedi of the Clone Wars era had lost their way, saying, quote, my attack on the temple was an attack on what Jedi have become, an army fighting for the dark side, declared the disgraced Barriss Offee in the Clone Wars episode The Wrong Jedi. In another quote, In our arrogance joined the conflict swiftly we did, fear, anger, hate, consumed by the dark side the Jedi were, confirmed by Yoda in the second season of Rebels. So, what is Anakin's role in all of this at this point now? By defeating Palpatine for the first time, Anakin brought balance back to the Force for a few decades, but it was only through his children and descendants that a new reformed Jedi Order was born, destined to keep the Force in balance for all time. To quote the prophecy again, quote, "And through him will ultimate balance in the Force be restored." This also aligns with George Lucas's original vision, as mentioned earlier, of Anakin's descendants playing a pivotal role in fulfilling the prophecy. In The Last Jedi, Yoda imparted Luke with one final lesson: pass on what you have learned. Strength, mastery, but weakness, folly, failure also, yes, failure most of all. The greatest teacher failure is. Luke, we are what they grow beyond. That is the true burden of all masters. Failures he later passed on to Rey, alongside all the Jedi knowledge he had accumulated throughout the years, the ancient Jedi texts, which is what he ended up going back into, not knowing that Rey had already taken them, and this is what Rey was studying in The Rise of Skywalker. So, Leia, who herself trained as a Jedi under Luke, passed on what she learned as well, and ultimately Ben Solo, the last living Skywalker, who was redeemed through the sacrifice of both his mother, father, and uncle, ultimately resurrected Rey, presumably founder of this new reformed Jedi Order, at the expense of his own life. Here is a small passage from the Rise of Skywalker novelization written by Ray Carson, also canon. Quote, "He had given Rey back to the galaxy. It wouldn't atone for the darkness he'd wrought, but it was what he could do." So, again, to sum up the prophecy, a chosen one shall come, born of no father, Anakin Skywalker, conceived by the Force, quote, "and through him and his descendants, Luke, Leia, Ben, will ultimate balance in the Force be restored." Ultimate balance given to Rey via Ben Solo's Force life, provided a new reformed Jedi Order founded by Rey. So that is how the Chosen One prophecy is fulfilled and explained throughout The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, A New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below. Hopefully this makes some sense, and hopefully this can help some of you guys get past the sequel trilogy if you were on the fence about it. But let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching, may God bless you, and the Force be with you always. If you enjoyed this episode, and frankly, even if you didn't, don't forget to subscribe.
Do it.
And if you want to help spread the word, please give this video a thumbs up and tell your friends to subscribe. Please check out the official Star Wars Coffee merchandise, and don't forget to check out all of the content playlists on this channel, including The Rise of Skywalker, The Mandalorian, and much more.